April 2021, Apple's spring-loaded event.
Hello and welcome back to Apple Park for our first event of 2021.
Not even a good morning, Tim. I feel personally attacked. Just months after introducing the first Apple Silicon Macs with M1 inside the same shelves as the Intel MacBook Air, 13-inch MacBook Pro and Mac Mini, Apple stunned us all with the new iMac. It was bright, colourful and fun. It had a retro future vibe, calling back to the original iMac released back in 1998 with its bright colours and friendly, approachable looks. And it had one other thing in common with that iMac too. For the first time since that first iMac, it came in just one size, right between the 21 and 27-inch sizes we were used to at 24 inches. And with a weird sounding 4.5K display. But are we finally set to get that enormous iMac of our dreams? Just maybe. I'm iCave Dave and I simplify Apple so that everything just works for you. It has been 3 years. I said from the start, while everyone else was predicting the big iMacs being imminent, that I wasn't sure it would be back. But now, I think, even though the rumours aren't saying it, that Apple's actions might be pointing at it being on the cards. But first, why didn't it make sense before? For a lot of people, it has made no sense that Apple would drop the bigger iMac, because that's where the iMac Pro lived in the lineup. The 2017 Pro version of the iMac was pretty iconic, I agree. That space grey was hot in a world where most Macs were still exclusively raw aluminium, and it certainly was the first time that the aluminium iMac got that new look. But when the Apple Silicon iMac came with just the one size and just the M1 chip, no Pro or Max options, everyone thought it must be because an iMac Pro was coming in that bigger size. Maybe with the mini LED display that the iPad Pro had just been blessed with at the exact same event. But no, it was clear to me that as much as we wanted it, iMac was going back to its roots. Steve Jobs, when he came back to Apple after years of exile, had realised how overly complex and broad Apple's product strategy was, with massive overlaps of price and function between different confusing lineups, and he stripped back everything to just 4 product categories: a consumer desktop, a consumer notebook, a Pro desktop, and a Pro portable. The iMac, the iBook, the Power Mac, and the PowerBook. iMac was squarely, see what I did there, positioned as the desktop for consumers. Simple to use and perfect for normal people to become their digital hub. Steve never announced a Power iMac for good reason. But we got more and more rumours about display panels in the supply chain. 27-inch, 30-inch, even 32-inch, mini LED, OLED, maybe even the micro LED that we were hearing about that Apple was working on, which made sense. Why would Apple release a 24 and a 27-inch pair? Never made sense to me. 30 to 32 inches though, I'd be all about that. And I came to the Mac Mini from a 27-inch iMac. Of course now I'm used to a 40-inch display. Size matters. But what's changed? Why does it suddenly feel like a larger iMac is back on the horizon? To answer that, let's head back to my product grid. Obviously the names have changed and there's a couple more devices here now. iBook has been succeeded by the MacBook Air. PowerBook is our MacBook Pro. iMac is now, it's still the iMac. But the Power Mac, that is our Mac Pro. That all makes sense. Except look what else has happened. More sizes. And even our consumer laptop, the MacBook Air, finally has a larger size. Even the Mac Mini has a tall boy version. The one that doesn't right now? iMac. iMac is essentially the desktop MacBook Air. But if you wanted even more evidence, the iPad Air is even getting a second size now, in just a few weeks' time. And I'm not saying that this is happening with the iMac. There are no rumours out there right now, but there are pointers beyond my grid theory. For example, we've seen that Apple is moving away from mini LED in the iPad Pro, and given the blooming that has been seen, even if the MacBook Pros have done a little bit of a better job of it, that's probably a good move. They're moving to OLEDs for those higher-end displays, just like the iPhones already do across the board. Currently, the iMac uses an LG display panel, while larger OLED displays have been easier to use at either a really big scale like big TVs, or with a slightly different technology on a smaller scale for phones. But last September, LG revealed that in 2024 they'd be introducing 32, 34 and 39-inch OLED panels. Interesting, eh? While iMacs have always had great looking displays, the idea of getting those inky blacks and more space to work sounds like a pretty great improvement. So would these be the iMac Pro that we've always wanted? I'm going to say yes and no. Now what on earth does that mean? Well, back to my grid. On the desktop, look at the Mac Pro, the Mac Studio, and the Mac Mini. The Mac Mini covers the low end of these models, with the Studio and the Pro doing the higher end. So the Mac Mini gets M2 and M2 Pro, the Mac Studio and the Mac Pro both get Max and Ultra chips. So, assuming the 24-inch iMac already has enough heat dissipation capacity, the iMac in both sizes would likely get the M4 and the M4 Pro chip options. Especially considering that the M3 Pro has been separated from the M3 Max chip, with this generation getting a higher proportion of those efficiency cores, meaning that it'll put out less heat and be way more effective in less cooling focused chassis, for example like a thin and sleek iMac, which also has to do display cooling at the same time as the chips. And bear in mind, Apple does not differentiate with the MacBook Pros on which chips you can get. The performance is the same, it's just how big do you want your screen to be. That would be the same with the iMac. So, an iMac Pro? Not really, but a more pro iMac nonetheless, which would allow a pair of additional displays to be powered in the Pro chip variant, as well as that internal one. And with what we've already heard about the M4 family of chips, not only arriving later in 2024, but also gaining way more on-device AI features, including Apple's own large language models that run right on your Mac, there will be great gains to be made. Right now, the neural engine uses the same amount of cores across the M3, the M3 Pro, and the M3 Max, but those cores have got 60% faster just since the M1, and there's every chance that with a focus on AI, Apple gives more neural cores in the higher-end chips going forward. Right now, the only one with more is the M2 Ultra, but that's because it's two M2 Maxes just smooshed together. It looks like they're going to be discrete chips going forward. And with great AI power comes great developer setups, surrounded by displays and potentially letting some of that AI help to make the next generation of apps. Maybe as soon as late 2024, when we're told the next iMac with Apple's next consumer Mac chip, the M4, will be here, and probably the MacBook Pros with their Pro and Max chips as well. But the question is, are you tempted? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks so much to my Patreons, Evan Rogers, Dave Slater, Rob, Daisy in the Rain, Sharon B, Kevin Black, and Andre Louis, who also makes our opening music. And I'll see you in the next one. Want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours? Subscribe and ring the bell.